You're trying to grow your business using data and you're just not getting anywhere. Maybe you have a spreadsheets, Google Analytics, maybe you spent a few $1,000s on a custom dashboard. The point is, you have all of this data and you still don't know what you should be focusing on next or what you should do to grow your business. If that sounds familiar, keep watching because in this video, I'll show you the exact framework I use with my client to generate millions of dollars, focus on what matters, and turn data into action. Introducing the Target Framework. It's a simple 6-step process that will make your data analysis focused and high impact. So let's break it down step by step. So step number 1, T of the Target Framework is target and goal. The reason your data analysis don't generate any result, one of the main reasons, you don't know what you're looking for. You go in there, you're kind of clicking around with no real purpose. So let's first set a goal so that our data analysis is looking for something very specific. We're trying to solve a very specific problem. So a goal would be, let's say, increase profit margin. So that would be a goal. However, that's not specific enough for a data analysis. We'd like to turn that goal into a target. To do that, we'll need to say by how much and by when. So increase profit margin by 25% by Q4. So that's it. That's step number 1. You have your target that is specific and time bound. Step number 2, the letter A of the Target Framework, is to assess KPIs. We have a goal and now we need to identify which KPI has a direct influence on your profit margin. For example, repeat purchase rate, average order value, cost per acquisition, and let's say website conversion rate. Now that you have a list, depending on the size of your organization, maybe you would give those KPIs and have a specific owner by department for those KPIs. So let's say cost per acquisition, website conversion rate, and average order value. Actually, all of these look like they are related to operations, but maybe profit margin could be also the product cost. And then that would be another department. Maybe shipping cost would be another department. Taxes, if you do a better job at taxes, that would be another department. Those are all ways you can improve profit margin without significant investment in your business. So that's step number 2. You list those KPIs that have a direct influence on profit margin. We are going to look at each of these items here, all of these, and refine them. You gave all these to each department. And one other thing you might want to do to clean up that list and also figure out where you should really focus your effort, one thing you can do at this stage is ask the following question. Do we have the data available and is it reliable? About repeat purchase rate, do we have that data? Website conversion rate, do you have your tracking in place? If you don't, maybe you create a side project so that you implement those things. But for now, focus on the one you do have control and that you know that the data is reliable. Also, how does it compare against benchmark or historical performance? If it had a big dip recently, it might be important to look into it. And also, if improved, would this have a high or low impact on our main goal here, which is again to improve profit margin by 25%. So we're not after small opportunities here. We're after big opportunities. And also by Q4. So do we have the time to address those issues, right? Again, this framework is to keep you focused. So by having those constraints, it will keep your analysis focused. Moving on to step number 3 of the Target Framework, R for refine. And it's kind of the same as step number 2. For each of these KPIs here that you kept after going through your checklist, your questions, you want to ask again, what are the levers that influence those KPIs? So for example, repeat purchase rate. What would influence repeat purchase rate? Well, product quality, maybe the delivery experience. If people experience shipping delay, they might not order again. Post-purchase emails, discounts, right? What we see oftentimes is that people that you had like big discounts on their first purchase are probably less likely to purchase again. I've seen the inverse sometimes, so that's something to look into as well. We have acquisition channel that could have an influence on repeat purchase rate. That's what we're listing here. And again, we're going through that same kind of checklist. Do we have that data? Is it reliable? How does it compare against benchmark or historical performance? And if this is improved, would it have a big impact on repeat purchase rate? So let's say delivery experience, you do have some data and you know that's important. Hypothesis, it is, and we'll see that later, but you have no idea if post-purchase emails are high impact and you really never worked on that. So that would be something that want to investigate if you're trying to improve repeat purchase rate. All right, so that's it for step number 3. You have your list and you disqualify or qualify or keep the questions that you can answer with the current data that you have. All right, moving on to step number 4, target framework, which is G for guess. And what I mean by guess, I know it's probably surprising and that's not what you would expect when doing data analysis, but the goal here is just to form a hypothesis. And again, it's simply to keep your analysis focused, to have a very specific questions you're trying to answer. This is optional, but it's a very good way to keep the focus in your data analysis because we will formulate a very specific question. So it's not about the question being right or wrong, it just has to be provable or not. Let's say your guess would be customers that experience shipping delay are less likely to purchase again. This might be true, this might not be, but the idea is that now you have something very specific to search for in your data, right? It gives very clear direction to your data analysis. And you do that for every single question that you decided to keep in your list, right? You formulate a hypothesis. It doesn't have to be true, you just need to be specific. So moving on to the 5th step of the data analysis, E for explore the data. So this is where we actually do the data analysis, right? We test the hypothesis that we listed from the previous step. So in this case, we would go in our data and look for customers that experienced shipping delays and compare them against very similar customers who did not experience shipping delay. And then we would compare between the two type of customer, the repurchase rate of those two and see how big of an impact shipping delays have. So let's say you went in your data and after data analysis, you realize that if shipping delays are over 4 days, the repeat purchase rate drops by 40%, which is massive. So this is a big opportunity, right? Because if we find a way to prevent shipping delays to go over 4 days, this would probably solve this issue and we would get all of that extra revenue from those customers that would purchase again. Right, so I hope this makes sense, right? And 40%, then if the number of customers that experience 4 days delay is high enough, then you can run the maths and see exactly how this would affect at the end of the day your profit margin. Now that we have those and we know exactly the impact this would have on the business, we can choose the one that would be the highest impact and act on them. Basically, here we would lay out a plan on how to solve this issue here of 4 days delay so that it never happen, or we mitigate how often this happens. Probably have a ton of other opportunities that we uncovered from the previous steps. We choose the high impact one and we create projects out of them. Maybe marketing would focus on website conversion rate. Operations would focus on shipping delay. Maybe the team that is responsible to buy the product or to manufacture the product would work on the product quality so that we have a high repurchase rate. Again, all tied back to profit margin. So now we have all of these opportunities that we listed. We choose the high impact ones and now we take action. Which brings us to the last step of the target framework, which is T, to take action. All right. Without this step, this is all useless, obviously. But the great thing with this is that now it's very easy to know what we should focus on to grow the business, and we know exactly how much of an impact this would have on our main goal, which is to increase profit margin. This is extremely powerful. This is what I use with all of my clients. If you want to push this further, I strongly encourage you watch the next video, which is on how to plan those projects, to take action and measure the outcome, because this is still all theories, right? You have those numbers. If we reach this number, it should have this impact on the business so that we can actually learn from everything that the company does and have this feedback loop going on all the time. Now go out there, apply that to your business, and you'll see the result right away. Set a goal, break it down, take action, make money. See you next time.